Welcome to Over the Edge podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rankin. Welcome to this week's podcast. Okay, so you gotta love social media, right? I came across this post that someone said that being easily offended is the same as being easily manipulated. And it made me laugh a bit because, being offended these days seems to be such a subjective thing. Everyone's offended that you're offended, and someone's offended that you're not offended, and the list goes on and on. But what if really you just your body, your consciousness has an awareness, and that awareness, the energy of that awareness, is what triggers your body to respond in the manner that it does. So some things you may not be aware of, therefore you don't get offended. Some things you may be very aware of, such as infringements upon your freedoms, or socialist, racist remarks or things like that trigger you into a response that says, hey, I'm aware that this is not right. Therefore, I am offended by the concept of what this person just said or did. That does not necessarily mean that you are easily manipulated. I believe that it actually proves that you are more of a critical thinker. If you are able to take an awareness that you have within your conscious being, and you can turn that into the energy of taking the situation and responding in a manner. Now, response is totally different from being offended, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But if you can take the awareness of what your consciousness is telling you, and you ask the question, and that's the key point, is you ask the question before you respond. One, is this something that I have control over? Two, is it something that I need to speak out on? And what is the possible recourse of my saying something about it, right? So when we start looking at that, that critical thinking comes into play with that, so I and you can say that post triggered something in me, and it triggered the awareness that I have that the judgment was placed there, that just because someone is offended by something, that would mean that they are easily manipulated, that they could be manipulated by others or by society or by programming or indoctrination. So, that within itself is an indoctrinated belief, is that, just because someone is offended by something that you say, that makes them lesser than or easily manipulated. So, you could say, yes, I was triggered by that. And it made me think. It really made me think of, one, first off, I did not respond to the post. I chose to ponder upon it and to see what I could do with that bit of information, and where I could actually bring it to the public eye and say, look, some of the ways that people are projecting ideas or, projecting their judgments on others about being offended is, I'm just going to say it, is a bit offensive in my mindset. Again, it's all subjective. It's all subjective, and it's basically taking one belief structure and trying to pose it in upon another person's belief structure. And I just happen to have the interesting point of view that it really comes down to awareness. How aware are you? And is the awareness based upon, consciousness or unconsciousness? Is it based on anti-consciousness even? Are we just not aware of what is happening? So, to touch base upon that, I do think that, as a society, and let me just kind of voice my thinking on this. My thinking is that when things are so different, I'm 40, almost 45, and things are different than when I was growing up. Okay. Society has shifted and changed so much. And I think that we have been, I'm just going to say, I believe that as a whole, we have been beaten down. We have been suppressed. We have been, agitated to the point to where a lot of us feel that no matter what we say, no matter what stance we take, someone is going to place judgment upon our words and our actions. And so, a lot of us are walking on eggshells, or, you're not afraid. And then there's some of us who, you just don't give a fuck. You're just going to say exactly what it is that you're thinking, and whatever comes out of your mouth comes out of your mouth. And, and honestly, I admire those who speak their minds. I admire those who can, bring forth enlightenment through conversation. And, I do not find myself being easily offended by some of the things that are being said by people, because it gives me the awareness of where they are consciously or unconsciously, where they are, right? So, when I look at that, I can go, okay, so where is this person? Where are they coming from? So going back to the whole initiated post, which was, is if you are easily offended, it's the same as being easily manipulated. And I'm going to throw a false flag on that from my interesting point of view, because there are a lot of things that should offend you. Social injustice, infringement on constitutional rights, racism, sexism, ageism, things of that nature should offend you, as well as pedophilia. That should really offend you. It should trigger something in you. So if someone posts something and you get triggered, please ask yourself prior to responding, even if it's only a few seconds, what is the awareness that I have about this? That is the energy that is triggering me in my body's response right now. And if you come up with the fact of there's an injustice, please do not bite your tongue. Please speak your truth. Even if it hurts someone's, quote, feelings. And does that really what this comes... Okay, so let's ask that. Is that really what this comes down to? Is that people, we've now become so indoctrinated to care for everyone's feelings that we hide the truth? That we shelter society, that we shelter others, that we shelter, our children, our future generations. And that creates a softness. So when people are presented with hard truths, they refuse to look at it. They find offense in the truth. I believe that's really what that kind of boils down to in my mindset, is that people are so offended by the truth that they refuse to accept the awareness of the way that reality is operating around them. Wrong and right. There is wrong and there is right. And personally, I do not leave it for my government to tell me what is wrong and right, because there is so much corruption there. I do not leave it to others to discern what wrong and right means for me. And I don't think that you should do that for you. I think that you should operate from awareness. And that is not for those who are being manipulated. Operating from awareness requires you to be a critical thinker, a free thinker. It requires you to evolve past all indoctrinations and belief structures that you've had. It requires you to ask questions and to speak your truth. So now is not the time for us to sit back and think that if we don't speak our truth that we're going to be easily manipulated, because not speaking your truth and being more concerned about offending others is what will cause the manipulation. That is the energy and the actions or lack of actions that will cause the manipulation. So I wanted to make this quick podcast. This is one of my shorter ones, but I wanted just to touch base upon that and, ask you to tap into your awareness and tap into the consciousness of what you truly know and what is your truth. And just know that your truth may not match what other people think is the truth. That's only for you to decipher. So until next time, I'm signing off. Have a wonderful day.